So today we're going to be looking at the June newsletter of this tool called Lightstone. Lightstone is a tool we use here in South Africa to help us with deeds information. So all the information, all the properties that are transferred and registered in the deeds office in the South African economy is then fed to Lightstone. Lightstone then gives visualized data on sales comparables and trends in the market. So it's a really good tool that I use when I'm doing due diligence, and on a regular basis they send out updates as to what's happening in the property market. I usually don't make a lot of videos on these kind of things, but today's article for me was really interesting, and I think off the back of the narrative of inflation that's coming along the lines, and a lot of the questions that I've had from my YouTube community as to is this a good time to be a buyer, and what kind of areas should we be looking at, I think this video is well placed. So if this is your first time joining my channel, please do click subscribe, join the tribe. If you like my vibe, this is all that I do is talk property, and I educate, share my knowledge. And I've started doing live streams now to be a little bit more interactive. So if you do have questions while we're on the live stream, please post them and I will answer them while we're online. Otherwise, you're welcome to send comments and I will respond as appropriate. So, what is the main message of this update from property from Lightstone this month? The good news is that the property market is holding firm despite all the chaos that's happening around us, and that's not surprising for me. I think the reason I've gravitated to property is because it's one of the more safer asset classes, and it's one of the asset classes that can work well in inflation. In an inflationary environment, things that also inflate are things like rent. So if your rent is able to inflate if at higher than your expenses are inflating, then you're buying something that is generating and growing in value. Um, and that's what the news is here. Residential property market holds firm as young buyers set the pace. And I think that's what's so exciting for me, is that the young buyers are starting to come into the market. And young buyers, is people within the 30 to 50 year range. So it's not super young people necessarily, but it's young buyers. So the first article, or the first point to make, is that the property market is holding firm despite COVID-19. I think that COVID-19 had a massive impact on the property market. I lost up to 50% of my rental income on some of my buildings in Joburg. And I had to find alternative ways to essentially fund the shortfall. So I was hustling on the side to make things work. Um, and what also happened in COVID is that the economy was so contracted that the central bank had to pull the lever that they can pull to influence the economy, and that's they lowered the interest rates. So they lowered the interest rate by 2.5%. Which really was great for newcomers to the market, and I think that's why there was a lot of buying activity during COVID, is because we had this very cheap monetary policy in place, and it was a breeding ground for good economic activity. But now, since COVID is not really having the impact that it used to have, now the central bank is stuck with another thing called inflation. And the only way to fight inflation, or one of the levers that the central bank can now push to get to reverse this high inflation, is to increase the interest rates. And that's why we've seen a 0.50 basis points increase in the last month. The South African Reserve Bank is meeting again in July. I suspect that there'll be another 0.25, if not 0.5 increase. And yeah, I think we're probably going to be heading closer to levels that we were at pre-pandemic levels. So before the pandemic hit, our interest rate was between 9 and 10%. Now the repo rate is sitting at 8.75, if I'm not speaking under correction. So another 0.25, zero point 0.5 at least. But I also think that what we did well, or what the South African Reserve Bank did well, better than the US Reserve Bank, is that we started increasing interest rates quite a while ago, whereas the US is only starting to catch it now. And unfortunately, I don't think they're going to have as soft a landing as we are when it comes to this inflation story. So the fact that we have had a few increases already over the last few months is setting us in a position where our inflation story is not as bad, and therefore I think we'll have a relatively soft landing. This is a very cool story. Soweto doubles up. Very exciting to see a township as one of the key areas that Lidstone has picked up in terms of investment value. June is also Youth Month, so the youth are buying the properties, and Soweto seems to be the area where the youth is most active. Um, so one of the stats here says that in Soweto, the registered homes have more than doubled since 1994. So the value of the properties have doubled since 1994. So that's a really good sign. There's some nice growth there. 99% of them are freehold, so there's not a very strong sectional title market in Soweto. In terms of the demographics of buyers, it is the vast majority, 90% of those homeowners in Soweto that are under 49, with another 47% under 35. So definitely the youth is stealing the show, which is nice to see. The last story is young and mobile. It does look like a lot of youth are coming into the market, and there seems to be a slight change of power from freeholds to sectional titles. In 2010, the freehold market accounted for 59% of the stock. It has fallen now to 48% in 2021. So that's 11% less freeholds in terms of the demographics of the property type. Sectional titles was in 2010 27% of the marketplace, and now it's at 36%. So seems like sectional titles are definitely becoming more and more popular, um, and a lot of youth are coming into the market. So what is this saying to us? I think, the way I read this is that it's a good time to be a property investor right now. To be fair, I'm a bit biased. I think it's always a good time to be a property investor, but especially when we've got this narrative of the inflation story. I think it's really important because property can be to some extent an inflation hedge. If you are able to inflate your rental at a slightly higher rate than your expenses, your rates and taxes, water, electricity, all of that is increasing, then you've got an asset that overperforms in an inflationary environment. I've seen my own stock portfolio crumble by 20, 25, 30%. So it's definitely the residential property market is where I'm looking to invest a lot of my time and effort now, because I do think that with this inflationary story, there's going to be some potentially more carnage in the stock market. I will check if there are any questions, but otherwise, yeah, I am going to cut it short here. Let me just make my picture a little bit better. To those 4,000 subscribers who have joined my program, or not my program, my channel, thank you so much. When I started becoming, a little bit more consistent with content creation, 5 years back, I never could have thought that, I'd be sitting with 4,000 subscribers. It's awesome, and it's been amazing to see the people that I've met in this journey. So thank you so much for being a part of this tribe, and going on this journey to financial freedom with me. As much as we can all learn together and grow together, we can improve the community. We can improve more and more people's lives. So if you do have any questions or comments, please post it in the section below, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, happy investing, and